Okay, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Ashley Van Ways and I am the Network Associate for the Global Legal Empowerment Network, and today I will be facilitating today's webinar. It's Thursday, January 26th, and today we have come together to learn about Casebox, an information management platform. Kristen Anton from HurryDocs will be presenting, and my network team colleagues Tobias Eigen and Michael Otto will field your questions. If we want to go ahead and show our webcams, put a face to the name, that would be great. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Cool. Okay. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping items. Firstly, take note that this event is being recorded, and we will share the full recording and highlights later on our website. You will see a questions pane where you can type in your questions and communicate with us. There is also a button for raising your hand to get our attention. Many of you who are not already members of the Global Legal Empowerment Network, and you may be learning about us for the first time. For those of you who are not familiar, the Global Legal Empowerment Network is a growing community of more than 900 organizations and 3,500 individuals from around the world who are working to advance justice, be it in land rights, citizenship rights, the right to health or education, or any other sector where injustice persists. Members include human rights activists and grassroots organizers, advocates and educators, lawyers and community paralegals, researchers, policymakers, and public servants. Through the network, these practitioners from across all regions and disciplines are able to come together to collaborate and learn from each other. Both online and through in-person events, we share ideas, challenges, best practices, and resources. How do we do this? The main way network members connect is through an online discussion platform, which you can access from your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Here we discuss problems and share ideas, solutions, and opportunities. We also learn from one another through webinars, just like this one, and in face-to-face learning exchanges, leadership courses, and other events, all of which we announce on the network discussion platform. Additionally, there is an online library which today has more than 1,000 free legal empowerment resources, such as training materials, monitoring and evaluation tools, case management forums, academic research, and more. Last but not least is advocacy. We work together to campaign on issues that affect us globally and nationally, such as our campaign that helped to ensure the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals included a goal specifically on access to justice. So you can join the network by clicking on the link in your screen. On that, you can click the picture on the screen, and it should take you right to our website. Membership is free and open to all. Just complete a sign-up form on our website, and you're in. We will be getting in touch with all of you after the webinar with the link to invite you to join. And now I'm pleased to introduce Kristen Anton. Kristen will speak for 25 minutes. Please type in questions in the questions pane as we move along. We'll collect them and do our very best to answer every question. There will be time after the presentation to pose some questions to Kristen directly. Time permitting, we can also give the floor to participants. So just let us know via the questions pane if you'd like to be unmuted and the question or topic you'd like to talk about. HurryDocs is an international NGO helping human rights organizations use information technologies and documentation methods to maximize the impact of their advocacy work. They created Casebox as a sophisticated management solution to one NGO in 2011 and subsequently expanded to become a flexible task, document, and record management system. Kristen is a community knowledge manager at HurryDocs. Kristen, over to you.
Oh, thanks, Ashley. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this webinar. You can go to the next slide.
Kristen, if I could just hop in very quickly. I just want to point out that we have 13 people already in attendance, which is wonderful. And also, there were a few hands raised, but I want to just lower everyone's hands now and ask you to please ask your questions in the question panel and the control panel, and I will try to answer them, and we'll queue them up to answer them later on to pose them to Kristen. So go ahead, Kristen.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tobias. Okay, Well, Ashley already gave kind of a great introduction to HereDocs, to me, to Casebox, but just to reiterate, I'm Kristen, the community knowledge manager for HereDocs. I'm a human rights advocate, I'm a community builder, and I'm an information management nerd. And over the summer, I noticed a thread on the Namadi platform because I'm a member of your global community. And that thread was about case management. And I had written a comment to suggest that people take a look at Casebox because I just started working with HereDocs. And that turned into Tobias asking me to do this webinar. So that's why I'm here today. And this presentation is meant to give you all an introduction to HereDocs, to Casebox, to some of the main features that Casebox offers. I'll also share a brief case study and then share some information on how we can support your case management efforts. And really the goal for this webinar today for us is to give you all a better understanding of what a case management system can do for your litigation work, and then also to give you this introduction to our tool, Casebox. Okay, so you can go to the next slide. HereDocs stands for Human Rights Information and Documentation Systems. It started back in 1982, and its focus has been to provide advice and assistance to human rights organizations in developing their best practices for documentation work, and also providing digital solutions for the management and analysis of their human rights information. This is a picture from 1990s from a meeting in Montevideo of some of the HereDocs founding members. So at this point, we work with about 50 partners in many regions of the world, including Africa, former Soviet Union, Europe, Latin America, Middle East, North Africa, Asia, Asia Pacific, and North America. We have about 17 staff members right now, and our head office is in Geneva, Switzerland, but our staff is really all over the world, and I'm here in New York. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So now I'm going to ask Ashley to post one of the polls, and it should be asking, are you happy with your case management system? And I'm asking this question because, well, it will give me an idea of how many people actually have one, and if you do have one, if you like it, or if you're frustrated with it. So while you guys are filling out that poll, I'm going to start talking about Casebox and how it came to be. So we started building Casebox with a web development company called Ketsi back in 2011 because we saw a really big gap in the tools that were available to the human rights litigation organizations that we were working with, especially the groups that we were working with in the former Soviet Union. What they needed was an affordable, user-friendly, secure case management system, but what we saw was that many organizations had this really severe information bottleneck where they're relying on one person to do all the data entry, to collect all the information from the lawyers and their other staff, and then to enter it into the system so that everybody can have access to it. But that takes so long, and it really impacts your ability to do the work effectively and efficiently. I think that there's somebody who's not muting. I wonder if we could mute all the other lines. I think maybe Michael Otto is the person that's not muted. I'll keep going. So a lot of these organizations also struggled to report on their litigation work without a lot of manual counting and analysis of numbers and information, like numbers of cases and types of cases, where they're at. And all of this kind of work is incredibly time consuming, and it's much better for these organizations to spend their time litigating as opposed to data entry. Do we have the results of that poll? Wait, maybe I'm...
Yes, okay, so looks like almost everyone voted. 50% say I don't use one yet. 33% said no, and 17% said yes.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm very curious to know the yeses, what they're using. So please enter that into comments at some point, and we can talk about that at the end of this presentation. But yeah, so like I expected, a lot of people don't use one yet. I put yet in there because I'm hopeful. Okay, so that's kind of the history of us developing Casebox. You can go to the next slide. So as we started to imagine what this would look like, we knew that we wanted human rights groups to have the basic case management features, like the ability to have multiple users entering standardized data, and it's all stored in one location. And we do this by using standardized forms, and that's kind of what this little image is about. And the next slide. Having the information standardized in this way really helps you to analyze the information, and so we knew that that was another big feature that we wanted to include. And you can go to the next slide. And then finally, and basically, we wanted all the information to be backed up and organized and searchable. So nobody's going to be losing any data. You're able to find what you're looking for, and it's organized in a way that you can track things and monitor how the cases are going. And you can go to the next slide. So how is Casebox different from all these other case management tools out there? The biggest difference is that it's free and open source. As far as we can tell, it's the only supported free open source legal case management platform that exists. And free and open source is good for the human rights community and for nonprofits in general, because anybody can download the code and audit it, and so it's really strong in security. And also it's more sustainable because others can pick up the code and add to it. So you could actually go to GitHub, download our Casebox code, and if you had a developer that you're working with, you could configure it however you would like. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and I will start introducing you all to the Casebox features, some of the highlights at least. Okay, next slide. So the most important piece here is the case management features, like customizing your case workflow. Within Casebox, you can customize your intake forms and your workflow. Within the cases, we have default case templates and subfolders that you can use that fit the needs of most lawyers, but those defaults are customizable to fit your needs. So anytime one of your lawyers opens up a new case, for example, you can have the same 5 subfolders underneath each one. You can also assign a caseworker to a client or a case. A client is just another type of information that you can organize and manage on Casebox. And you can record notes on records and add attachments. Next slide. It's also a nice file management system. You can maintain files centrally and control user permissions within the file repository. You can keep multiple file versions, which is helpful when you want to see when changes were made and by whom. You can preview common document types without download, like PDF and Word docs. You can add an unlimited number of custom fields to manage whatever you choose. Okay, you can go to the next slide. We have some nice features that allow you to collaborate with your colleagues, such as comments. So you can comment on any case or record or document or task that's added to Casebox. This helps you to avoid lots of email discussions that get lost. Everything can live right there with your case. You can also tag other users like you would in Facebook, in the comment section that is, and when you tag another colleague, they'll get an email notification to let them know that someone is mentioning them. We also have tasks in Casebox, so you can assign a task to one or more users and track deadlines of those tasks. You can link tasks to cases and documents or any other record in the system. So for example, you might want to add a task to have Sonia follow up with the investigator on a certain case. And you can assign it to Sonia, you can have a deadline, then you can follow up on that. Okay, next slide. You can, now I'm going to ask you to put up the next poll, Ashley, and this poll should be, do you have staff in multiple offices? Great. So this is really a big reason why we created Casebox, is because all the groups that we work with, they do have lawyers in other offices. Some of them work with a network of pro bono lawyers, so they're at home, they're at their other offices, and they might be adding information to Casebox from any of those places. So what's nice about Casebox is that with the user permissions, you can control who can view or edit any files or folders in Casebox, and you can apply your own access rules to groups or individuals. You can share specific cases or documents with people outside of your organization as well. So you can really control who has access to what. Also, multiple people can access the system at the same time. This is not like Microsoft Access, if you know what that is, where it like lives on one computer and one person can be on it at a time. This is an online dynamic system, so multiple people can be entering data. But don't get this confused with the ability to work offline. At the moment, we don't have like an offline version where you can make changes on your desktop, and when you get online, those are automatically added. But that would be a really nice feature to add. Casebox also offers multilingual support. So we have translated the menus and the instructions, not the instructions for how to use Casebox, but like the interface. We've translated into French, Russian, and Arabic, and also it's available in English. It's customizable into any other language, and there's a couple other languages like Chinese, I think, that are available, but it might just be a little bit outdated. So whatever language you work in, you have the ability to translate the menu and interface into that language. Also, there's a nice security feature that lets you protect your login information by using two-factor authentication. Hopefully you guys are familiar with this because you can use it on Gmail, and I think Facebook has it and Twitter has it now. And for Casebox, we offer that kind of two-factor authentication using either Google Authenticator or YubiKeys. Okay, do we have the results of that poll?
Yes, we do. So it looks like 100% of people said yes, they have staff in multiple offices.
Okay, great. Well, in that case, for those of you who said that you don't have a case management system, I'd be really curious to learn how you all share case information with each other. If it's over email, maybe you're using Dropbox or Google Drive. If you could put that in the comments, and maybe Tobias could collect that information. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the next really important piece of any case management system, including Casebox, is the ability to search and filter through the cases and all the information in your case management system. With Casebox, you have full control over your search criteria. You can choose which filters you want to enable, and this is a screenshot with some examples of the active filters that this organization chose to display for their users. And you can check multiple things. So you can have like a faceted search where you can select multiple filters at the same time. Casebox also offers full text search, and that includes attachments. So for any attachments that have text that's machine readable, you can find content within those documents attached to the cases. So that's kind of helpful. And the next slide is data analysis. So you can present your data in a way that can make impact for your donors. So we have another poll here. Is your work funded by grants? I'm not familiar enough with the Nomadic community to know, how you guys are funding your work. But if it is grants-based, like a lot of nonprofits, you probably have grant reports, and you have to probably give them lots of data in those grant reports. So Casebox was built with this in mind, and you can really make a pivot table on comparing any of the data in your cases that you've selected as you customized it. And you can create both those pivot tables, and then from the pivot table data, you can create these bar charts or pie charts. You can also perform a search and then create a chart from that search. And what else is nice is you can export the data from these pivot tables so that you can play around with the data in an Excel spreadsheet and make charts over there too. Everything is exportable as HTML. Okay, let's go to the, oh, sorry, the grants poll. What was the outcome of
So
that?
it looks like almost everyone voted, and they all said 100% yes, our work is funded by grants.
Yeah, and probably your work is funded by grants as well as some other funding sources. So I understand it's like not as black and white. Okay, let's look at a case study. Before we go into this, I just want to mention that the organizations that we work with Casebox, they're working with some pretty sensitive human rights information, so I can't show screenshots of their actual data on the back end or anything like that, and I can't share a ton of information about these groups, but I do have a couple of stories that I think will just help to make this a little more concrete, and maybe you all can, maybe it'll resonate with the work that you're doing as well. So let's go to the next slide. So this case study is about the Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union. This is the largest association of human rights organizations in Ukraine, and it's a network of 30 human rights groups. They focus on providing legal assistance to the victims of various human rights violations. They represent these victims in courts. They also do human rights education and research and consultancy on public policy. So after the recent escalation of the human rights situation in Ukraine, the scope of this organization's work and the number of members has increased a lot, and it increased really quickly. So they turned to HeroDocs to help them organize the information that they have. And you can go to the next slide. They have 19 intake centers all over the country. And before they were using Casebox, this organization was working on a basic database, and only the staff in Kiev had access to this database. So you can imagine the bottleneck that happened there. This database had limited functionality and was built without consideration for scalability like this. So sharing information and collaboration on cases was managed through email and phone, which led to the loss of some documents and some communication, the manual analysis of data, which is really time consuming, and it could potentially lead to some leaked information. Sharing sensitive information over email is not a very good idea unless you have secure email, because email is a pretty easy thing for somebody who wants your data to go in and grab it. Okay, the next slide, please. So UHHRU uses Casebox now as a tool to document daily incoming reports about human rights violations through all of its intake centers. And there's now over 90,000 consultation records, which are those forms that come about before it becomes an actual case. And they have around 600 cases that are stored in Casebox. They're also, they also work with over 60 users on Casebox. Okay, the next slide. Each record is automatically saved based on the user who added it. They're using permission settings, so City A has access to City B records, but nobody can edit those, or the City A can't access can't edit City B's records. They have customized consultation and case forms as well, and this is a screenshot of an example of what one of these case forms looks like, where they have created their own types of cases, and you could customize this however you would like. Next slide. And now this is a screenshot of a custom field that you can create that's attached to your case form, and it asks the user to assign one or multiple human rights issues. So you can imagine how helpful this might be for a grant report if you want to pull up the number of cases that are related to violations of the right to life, for example. Okay, next slide. And then this is another screenshot of one of these case forms when it's saved. So you can see the information. And obviously this is not from Ukraine because the province is Harare province, but this just gives you an idea of what this will look like and some of the other fields that you can have in here. And next slide. And then this is a screenshot of one of the charts from another one of our organizational partners that's called Sahil. They are using Casebox to host their Inter-American Human Rights System Case Law Analyzer. That's really a mouthful, but it's a public website, and you can see the URL there at the bottom. It's a platform for people to find case law within the Inter-American Human Rights System, and you can, it's like a full text search, you can organize documents. It's really powerful, and you can also perform these kinds of analyses. So this is just one example. It has the types, looks like the types of cases and documents on the right-hand side, and then the left are the countries, so you can see the number of documents in Casebox related to each country, and then the types of documents those are designated by those different colors. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Another example of an organization using Casebox is the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights. It's using Casebox for its international litigation work. It has about 40 cases recorded, which includes cases under investigation, cases filed, and cases not yet filed. The cases filed is over 2 dozen against over a dozen states. And the RFK primarily litigates in the Inter-American and African human rights systems, with cases right now before the Inter-American Commission in Court and the African Commission in Court. And they also have a handful of cases before the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, and they're exploring filings before the UN treaty bodies. So this is an example of another group that's using this case management system. And you can go to the next slide. So who's using Casebox right now? We currently have 10 active organizations that are using Casebox for litigation and documentation. We are working with 3 major websites that are powered by Casebox. That includes this one that you see on the screen. It's called WriteDocs, which allows users to access, search, and analyze the UN Human Rights Council resolutions. And there's also the Case Law Analyzer for Inter-American Human Rights System that we just saw. We have the Case Law Analyzer for the African Human Rights System. And we have a website called opendata.ge, which is for the Georgian government. And then we also have 4 projects that are in the works. You can go to the next slide. This is an example of the African Human Rights Case Law Analyzer. So how can we support you? We provide Casebox hosting and support to configure the templates based on your needs. And that's exactly what we would do first, actually, is we would do a needs assessment with your organization to find out if Casebox is the right fit and how we could configure it. At the moment, we can't develop new functionality, so we can't start developing new apps or like include video play, but we can help with the integration of the tool and with the customization of the existing functionality. We're also exploring the possibility of folding Casebox into our newest platform, which is called Uwazi, which is another thing that maybe I could present to you guys someday. Okay, and the next slide is our contact information. On the left is a way for you guys to stay in touch with HeroDocs. We're on Twitter, Facebook, we have a newsletter. We're building an online community of practitioners around information management. So I would encourage you to sign up to our newsletter so that you can keep up to date with the opportunities that we're providing for the community, such as webinars like this, online discussions, guides, other things. There's an email discussion list. So please join that newsletter to keep up to date on that. And then our website is herodocs.org. Below that is my own contact information. If you have any questions or if you want to learn more about Casebox, please reach out to me at Kristen@herodocs.org. I'm also KJ Anton on Twitter. And then the Casebox information is on the right-hand side. We are on GitHub. You can go there right now and look at the issue queue. You can download the code. You can explore it that way. So please go ahead and do that, and then you can learn more about Casebox at casebox.org. We have an email address here, info@casebox.org, but it might be easier just to reach out to me. Okay, the next slide is just a slide for questions with my adorable 5-month-old Nolan. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I guess that's what people are saying now. I think that's all I have.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kristen. That was great. So a few of you have asked questions throughout the webinar, and I'd like to encourage you to continue to ask them in the questions pane. But I will start with Esther Showalter, and she asks if any presenter is familiar with iMeet Central or Central Desktop, could you please comment on how Casebox's filtering and visual analysis tools compare?
I am not familiar at all with that, but I'm going to look it up after we're done. My colleague Bert Verstappen is on the call, I think. Bert, are you familiar with iMeet Central? It's called iMeet Central or Central Desktop. Is that right?
iMeet Central or Central Desktop.
Yeah. Bert, are you familiar with those? I think you might be able to type a comment to the organizers. I don't know if we're able to unmute Bert's line. I don't know how you would do that.
Let's see here, Bert. I'm not sure if he's on right now. That's okay. She actually asked another question, which you might be able to answer. Does Casebox offer an offline data entry option, such as a mobile application, or is one in the works?
That's a really great question. Unfortunately, we do not offer that right now. Although there was a project, I believe, in which we were able to combine Kobo Toolbox, which is a mobile data collection tool. We were able to use that with Casebox. I don't think that integration it's not available to everybody, but it's something that we could potentially explore if that's something that your organization was interested in. But we don't offer that right now, nor do we have an offline data collection tool.
Okay.
But yeah, as we go forward with Uwazi, we might be looking at something like that.
Okay, great. So it's in the works. Okay, next question comes from Akila. From Casebox, can you get aggregated data in an Excel file? For example, if I ask a question to each client, can I aggregate the answers using Excel?
I believe that you can. Bert, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what you would do is you would have a field for that question that would be on your case form. So each user would respond to that field, and that might be a yes or no field, or it might be like a multiple choice field. That was probably the easiest way to do the aggregation that you're referring to. And then what you would do is include that field in your search options and your filter options, so that would come up as you're searching and filtering your data. And then you would create a pivot table based on that information, or maybe it could just simply be a search. And then you would export that data as HTML, and from that HTML file, you can make an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm making it sound like there's a lot of steps, but I mean, once you set up that customized field and once you turn it on in the search filters, then you're pretty much good to go. So I think that should be possible. Bert, is that correct? Oh, I see that my other colleague Manoush is chatting with me too. Yes, we can aggregate an Excel file.
Great. Great.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, if Manoush and Bert want to be unmuted, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Great. Bimal Sharma asks, is it a web-based application? Can we install it in my office, and how can we use this?
Okay. Yes, it's web-based. Yes, you can download the code and you can use it, but you would need to install it on a server, and the installation and configuration process might be a little complicated. So, I mean, I'd recommend that you reach out to us before you try to install it. But if you had a developer that you work with, then certainly that person could give it a shot. You would, it's not like you would just turn on something like, what am I trying to compare it to? Like Dropbox. So Dropbox is hosted somewhere. You would just sign up for an account. It's a little different than that. Either we would have to customize it and host it for you, and then you would be able to create those accounts, or you would want to download it and host it yourself. And then people would be creating accounts. But there's definitely some extra steps in there. Does that make sense?
Yes. He also asked a follow-up question. Are there any users in Nepal?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, maybe there will be a first. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Fatima asks, what do you mean when you say it needs to be installed on a server?
So if your organization has a website, which I'm sure it does, that website is being hosted on a server somewhere. Some organizations have servers within their organization, but some organizations just have some computers that are connected in another way. I'm not explaining this very well, but in order for this to be accessible by multiple users, it needs to live on a server so that multiple people can access that online. Tobias, is there a better way for me to explain this? Or Bert or Manoush? Tobias, if you're talking, you're muted.
I just unmuted myself. It needs to be installed on a server. Well, it's a shared application that's installed online, so that people can. I mean, I think you've answered it pretty well already, actually.
Okay.
So the server is actually online, right? You don't install it on a server in your office. So it's just like, you know, a website would be installed. It's basically a web application that people can then access through their web browsers.
Right.
We have another question. What is the difference between a case management system and a contact management system?
Yes, that's a great question. There's also something called a records management system, which I think is pretty similar to a case management system.
Kristen, Bert has requested to be unmuted. Should we go ahead and do that?
Oh, wonderful. Yes, Bert, take it away.
Okay, I will unmute Bert.
Bert Verstappen is our lead human rights documentalist at Herodox, and he knows everything about this stuff.
So Bert, it looks like you've muted on your side, so you need to unmute yourself. Should be a little on the control panel. You should see there you go.
Okay, now I'm green. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just the previous question about hosting. No, you can either host it on your own server, on your own intranet, which for some organizations is better because it raises less security issues, or hosting can be provided by Herodox, where of course also, you know, we take care of various security issues, but in principle, using the internet is less secure than using it on your own server.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. So people can put it on their own organizational servers. It doesn't have to necessarily be on an online server.
That's right.
Okay, great.
And
Bert,
then
did you
the
have any
question
thoughts?
about the relationship between contact management system and a case management system. I think a case management system is wider somehow. Certainly a tool like Casebox, it's a kind of combination of a case management system, a task management system, and a document management system. So you can keep track of your cases, but at the same time you can ask your colleagues to do certain things with those cases, and you can attach documents to it. You can even edit documents within Casebox itself. So in that sense, it's a broader application than the contact management system, which would be like a more say basic system, probably consisting only of one or two formats. But a case management system, by definition, would be somewhat wider and more complex.
Thank you. Yeah, and we actually just hosted a webinar on contact management systems. So if you're interested in exploring that more, you could go to the HeroDocs website, and under the blog section, you'll see that there's a recording of this webinar we just hosted 2 weeks ago. Contact management systems are really useful for things like fundraising, mobilizing people. You could send out a message to thousands of people at once using a contact management system. You can ask for donations and process donations through contact management systems. You can connect contact management systems to your email so that you can save a copy of your email messages to that person in the contact management system. And there's a lot of tools out there that help you do this, like Civi CRM, Salesforce. There's a Microsoft service called Microsoft Dynamics. Those are all contact management systems. And then the case management system is really focused on managing case information. I mean, it's really that simple. That, and my career started in the torture treatment movement. So when I think about case management, I think about psychosocial cases and how one case would go from the social worker to the nurse to the physical therapist to the doctor to the lawyer, and all these people want to have access to the same case information, and they want to update it on the status of the case. They want to add new attachments. They want to monitor how that person is doing over 5 years. So I could see how there's a lot of overlap between a case management and a contact management system, but it's really about the focus of the information. Are you trying to manage cases, legal cases, psychosocial cases, or are you trying to manage people and their interactions with your organization? I hope that's helpful and not way too much information.
Great. We have a couple of more questions, and really quick before I do that, we had some answers from Manoush. To Aquila, yes, we can aggregate in Excel file. And to Bimal, yes, there are migrant workers groups in Nepal. So that's great, some solidarity. Okay, and then a follow-up from Fatima. Is the customization service free?
That would really depend on the situation and the kind of customization that you would need. So we'd have to talk about that one-on-one, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because basically Casebox comes as a very open system, and it can really be configured according to the needs of particular organizations. So quite some of the work involved lies exactly in that area, identifying what you want to use Casebox for, what kind of information you would like to get out of it. And that obviously takes time, and usually there's some costs involved if it goes beyond a couple of hours, which usually is the case.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bert. I mean, with any system, probably the bulk of the work is just figuring out your information strategy. And that's something that we'd be happy to help you with. And it's something that I think a lot of organizations could use support doing. And then when it comes to applying that strategy to a system, you're already so many steps ahead. You just need someone to help you customize the database.
Okay. Shreya Sen asks, how effectively can Casebox be used for documentation of non-legal work, such as follow-ups on non-judicial complaints, right to information applications, etc.?
Yeah, I think all of that is definitely doable and configurable for Casebox. We built it with human rights litigators in mind, but it's a very flexible system, as Bert mentioned, and it can be used to track any kind of case.
Okay, great. Vimal asks, is it clear that it is a little bit difficult to install in our office, so can we use your server?
Yeah, that's definitely a service that we provide to groups. I think that, Bert, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that those 10 organizations that are actively using Casebox, I think that we're hosting their data, or at least for most of those organizations we are. So that's something that we could provide. We just would need to talk to you more about your needs and how we can offer that.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Fatima asks, is there a way to link the contact management with the case management?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Tobias and I were having a long conversation about this yesterday. Connecting all these systems can be complicated. With Casebox, it includes contact management and task management features. But I wouldn't call it a contact management system. It's really focused on managing cases, but you can also track and manage contacts along with those cases, as well as tasks. If you were to be using a contact management system outside of Casebox, like CiviCRM or Salesforce, connecting those two systems is probably not going to be easy. And I know that there is an API for Casebox, but I don't think that it was built with that kind of capability in mind. So it would probably take a lot of work to put those two things together.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Great. So yes, HurryDocs servers can be used. Okay. Let's see here. Bimal asks, what are the differences between a case management system and a digital asset management system?
I guess I'd like to hear from Bert and Manoush, but when I hear digital asset management system, I just imagine a system for which you can manage any kind of digital data, which is like really big. So that could be managing contact information, case information, anything you could imagine, like videos and photos and emails, like all of that could be considered digital assets. Unless I just don't really know that term. What do you guys think? Or maybe there's an example?
Yeah, the United States asset management relates mainly to document management, including photos, videos, etc.
Bert,
it's
the connection is
very
not very
hard
good.
to understand.
Sorry, Bert. Maybe you could. It's really hard to hear you. Maybe you could type your response, and Ashley could read it. Maybe we could mute Bert's line Sorry,
Yes.
Bert.
So
You could try to
sorry.
call back in. Bert,
Yeah.
it might also be helpful to use the dial-in. I don't know. Can people dial in other countries, Ashley?
Yes, yes, you can. Bert, you can either type in your answer to the questions pane and I will just read it out, or you can try dialing in. Okay. So let's see. Esther has another question in the meantime. So is it possible, if the data is initially captured in the correct forms, to create custom filters to be able to see, for example, all cases handled by all office locations during a certain week, or all cases of child trafficking handled by only 2 offices?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the exact kind of use case for this data analysis. Is that you can fine-tune the data and the filters however you want, as long as it's represented in fields in Casebox.
Okay, great. So
Manoush, yeah. Manoush, if you have any examples of this that would help make it more concrete, it would be great to hear about that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's possible.
Okay. All right, at this point, I'm not sure. Oh, Bert has responded. Okay, so digital asset management system relates to documents, photos, and videos. Casebox allows to manage this to some degree, but we are developing another tool called Uwazi, which focuses on exactly this.
Yeah, so Uwazi is a document management tool at the moment. We're just focusing on documents, PDFs actually, and it's a really interesting platform that you can use to publish collections of documents. Like, let's say like I'm thinking of the example right now in the United States, how everybody's trying to archive climate change data. If that information was in a physical document and you wanted to scan it and have it online so that everybody can access it and search through it and organize it, you could use Uwazi to upload large batches of PDFs, and then that text is searchable, and you can add metadata and tags, and you can highlight text, and eventually you'll be able to annotate the text. It's really powerful and very cool for human rights groups. So that's the Uwazi tool that we're working on now, and we're hoping to add the ability to include video and photo to that platform. I would be really curious to know what case management systems people are using out of this group.
Yeah, so we can open up the floor to our participants. If any of you want to share what case management platforms you're using, if you just want to raise your hand, and I will unmute you. So it looks like Mario, you have your hand raised. I'm unmuting you. Mario, you are, oh, it looks like maybe your hand has been up the whole time. Does anyone else care to share what case management platform they're using? I know some of you said that you had one already.
Or for those of you that don't use an actual case management system, I'd be curious to know how you guys collect data and store it in one place, if you're using Dropbox or another tool, or if you just have like a system that works for you, what does that look like?
Okay, it looks like Manoush has his hand raised as well. So if...
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Manoush.
Hi.
Manoush is with Here at
Hello. Yes, I've been raising my hand for a while. Probably I was doing it wrong, but anyway, I'm glad you can hear me. I wanted just to probably add on the digital asset management tools, the difference between that and Casebox. As Kristen, Casebox is mainly a case management tool, so most of the documents, while we can also have videos and photos hosted, it's mostly documents like Word documents, Excel files, and PDFs, and accompanied by photos. And digital asset management refers more of like any kind of digital content, which is a bit different use of a bit different management tool. That's the main difference. That's the difference, right? And I also wanted to add on the question about using Casebox for child rights litigation, if I'm correct. I was breaking off. The call was breaking off. I wanted to say that yes, that would be a classic use of Casebox.
Mm-hmm. Great,
Yes.
thank you, Manoush.
Great, thank you so much, Manoush. We had one more. Fatima was raising her hand. So let's see. Fatima, did you want to say anything about?
Yes, hello everyone. We do not have a specific case management system platform that we're onto, but what we have is we use Excel and then we upgraded to Google Drive and we share information using Google Drive.
Great, thanks, Fatima.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll give one last opportunity if anyone wants to give any input, or else we can go ahead and close out. But I do want to say that Bert has offered to do a demonstration after we stop the official recording. So if you want to stay on the line, we will share his screen and he can show us a little bit about what Casebox says. So that brings us to the end of the formal part of our webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for the excellent questions and points raised. And thank you Tobias and Michael for fielding questions. And last but not least, thank you to Kristen for your informative presentation. We've learned a lot today about Casebox, and it's been a pleasure to listen to you and get this important update from your program. And as I said at the start, the Global Legal Empowerment Network is open to all and membership is free. Please log in as soon as you can so we can also start learning from you and introduce you to our community for sharing and collaboration. The link to log in is namati, NAMATI.org. Please take this opportunity to join us and tell us what you are working on, challenges you face, and potential opportunities for collaboration with fellow practitioners in the network. We'll be in touch by email with a reminder invitation and also to share the link to the full recording of today's proceedings. Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks for all the questions, you guys.
Awesome. Okay.
Here you see the general information. This is a filter of all cases by lawyer. Further down is also cases by inspector, which is a different function. And then we also have the cases themselves. So if I click on a case and then like the Abramovich case in the middle of the screen now, it shows me how the different type of documents which are relevant in this configuration. And then at the right side you can see the details. So it goes from more general to the in-between to the very specific information on particular cases. So you see at the right side there's the basic information about this case, when it was started, what is its status, priority, number, the region, the persons involved, the relevant articles. In some cases, apparently related to the European Convention on Human Rights. Some articles are cited. And then there's files where you can basically add documents, PDF, Word, video, audio, etc. And then also there's possibility to add comments. So when we just do, you will click the add sign and the A, then it will show me all the people in the system, which are, well, actually it shows everybody. So I can just basically post a little comment to a colleague asking her to take care of a particular task. And so you see that you can create your own folders, and within your own folders you can create subfolders, and this is all customizable, and this is what I was mentioning previously, that Casebox is a very flexible tool, and it requires talking with individual clients, assessing their needs in terms of how do they manage the cases, what kind of information they want to put in, what kind of information would you like to get out, and then just customize, because Casebox as such comes as a very open system, and so it can indeed be modified according to particular needs. Just to show those little filters, I can then click up here, and then basically allows me already to filter, like by creator in this case. So I only want to see the cases which have been created by this person called Elena. I just click on it, and then they're already displayed. I can take this filter off again, and there are template here as case. You can do overall searches in Casebox. There's a search box over here at the right upper bottom, top. Sorry. This Casebox is intended for creating contacts and for tasks which you attribute to you and your colleagues, for events, meetings, for folders, and for cases. So if I create a new case, it opens on my screen an empty form, so I can start filling in the data as we saw like in the previous screen, that just follows. This is all predefined. We try to use like lookup lists as much as possible. This cases which are ongoing or which have been archived, number, date of archival, okay, number. You see, quite some of the fields come with predefined lists, which can be modified in the Tesori section of Casebox. Expect results. Okay, this is like a little lookup list where you can select more than one term. Okay, so then I save this case. Another thing which you can do in Casebox is you can set permissions, which is quite useful if you're working with a bigger group of people. This enhances also the security of the system. You can say, I want this and this person only to get access to the system. The default is everyone, but you can edit this. Then you can say, I want this case only to be shared with Maria and with Oksana, for example, or I want to add them as permissions. And then you can even say what kind of permission they should have, if they should get full control, if they only should be able to modify or to read and write, etc. Then the way the system is set up, it is done by creating templates. So for each content type, like for case, document, task, contact, etc., there are templates which are being created and modified, and the terminology lists go in the Tesori So they can also get an overview of which terminology this has been created for this particular application. Okay, let's just submit the sorry. Okay, let's go back to the cases. In the middle, like the default view is the grid, but then there's also activity screen, which basically gives you an overview of who has been doing what within the system recently. So you saw that the most recent activity was that I created a test case. There is the pivot table where you can easily produce statistics by different factors, by date and creator, for example, or by template and creator. There's only cases here, so cases by lawyer. And then you can also do charts. This gives you a graphic overview, again by creator. If you change this here to inspector, I probably should get different charts. Yeah, that's the same thing again. You see here by cases. If we don't get something more interesting. Okay, here you can filter them by status, for example, which are active cases and which are archive cases by priority, similar, by which lawyer is responsible. You get an overview of that. And the same way you can need your private table. With private table, as you will have noticed, you know, it comes with two columns, so you can basically do by priority and by lawyer to get an overview of that. So it also allows, when working with a larger team, for a manager to see how many cases are being handled by one particular person. And then there's also, of course, there's task management, including tasks over here. There's no task for me yet, but indeed, if you create a new task, you can say when it is due, when the date and time, assigned to. You get a list of all the users of the system. Okay. So you save this, and then next time when the person to whom the task was attributed will logs into the system, here at the right upper corner there are notifications, and she will basically get a note saying there's a new notification for her. And these tasks can also be linked to your email accounts. Actually, that's apart from getting a warning once you log into Casebox, you also get an email in your inbox saying, hey, Bert asked you to take care of this. This is the deadline. For more details, log into the system.
Hey, Bert.
Yes?
While you're doing this little demonstration, we have two more questions, one from Bimal. Is it possible to conduct training or a workshop about Casebox in Nepal?
Yes, definitely. It's possible to do this everywhere in the world. Our projects are indeed global. Initial clients were, I think, mainly in Russian Federation and Ukraine, but now we also have various clients in Africa, etc. The way it works is, you know, as we mentioned before, is that Casebox is very much tailor-made for particular organizations. So or networks which are really working on the same issues and need like a similar kind of structure. So the way a project would look like is that we would do like an initial needs assessment, either on-site or through correspondence and the discussions online. We do a configuration, and then it would be followed by a training. We usually also make like a user's manual for people to help them working on a daily basis with the system.
Okay, great. So maybe
yes, it is possible indeed as part of a project which we would then agree upon together with the client.
Okay, great. So Bimal, maybe you can get in touch with either Bert or Kristen and arrange to have a discussion. That would be great. And then Esther has a question. Does Casebox allow viewing of all data entries made by any particular user?
I just did a brief demo of permissions. This is basically something which the organization can determine itself, and in some contexts where there's no real like security concerns internally, then everybody can see everything. In other cases, it is possible, like to provide permissions only to certain users or certain groups of users, and then you define the rights and permissions of each of those groups. So you can either say certain types of cases are only available to those users, or some individual cases according to your needs. So the system is quite flexible in that regard.
Great. Okay. That is all for the questions right now. Did you have more to demonstrate?
No, this is just like a quick overview. If people have further questions, feel free to contact us.
Okay, great. And we are sending out all of the contact information in our follow-up emails, which you should receive in the next day. So we will definitely be in touch. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? No? All right. Looks like we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Bert, for that demonstration. That was great. And we...
Great to meet you all. This is Tobias, just saying goodbye as well. Really glad to meet the HurryDocs team, and I appreciate you coming to give a presentation to our community.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for the opportunity, and thanks, Bert, for that demonstration.
There's a lot of material here. We'll do our best to consolidate it from our end, and then share it with Kristen to maybe put together kind of a Q&A, and that we can post on our forum, and then we can keep the conversation going there, and maybe do some follow-up discussion there on the forum, or maybe do another webinar about your other products, and see how they compare with other tools that people in our community are using, and can help add to our toolbox.
That'd be great. Great.
Awesome. Okay. So we will all meet offline. Or online, I guess. All right. Thanks again, everyone.
Take care. Bye, Bert.
Have a good day.
Kristen.
Bye, Bert. Bye, Kristen.
You too. Bye-bye.